Hello and welcome to the Business of Law, brought to you by Bloomberg Law and the ABA Journal. I'm Sarah Kopit, sitting in today for Lee Packia. It's the age of austerity for much of Europe, but our guest today has surveyed senior executives at 400 of the world's largest companies, and he says the picture may not be so bleak for European M&A. He's Guy Norman, acting global head of mergers and acquisitions for Clifford Chance, and he joins me today here in our New York studio. Guy, welcome.
Thank you, Sarah. Good to be here.
So, European M&A seemed to peak in 2007, and deal work in the last year is at the same place it was over a decade ago. Why do you think Europe is in such a rebound phase for mergers and acquisitions?
I think no one is expecting a surge in European M&A over the next few years. The growth prospects in Europe are very, very weak. There are obviously eurozone uncertainties. There are still concerns about the political issues and the austerity measures being taken in Europe. I think what we are seeing, and we found this both in the survey and in discussions with our clients around our global network, is that Europe is coming back onto the radar screen as a European M&A destination. And one of the interesting features of the survey, one of the key messages, I think, was that Europe is now seen as second only to Asia Pacific as an M&A destination for international investors. So we're not expecting a surge, but people are interested in Europe again. Now, you asked the question, why now? You're right, it's the key question. A lot of the conditions for M&A have been there for a while now. There's a lot of cash on corporate balance sheets. I think it's over $1 trillion now on European corporate balance sheets. Private equity houses have got cash to deploy. Debt is cheap for those that need to access debt. So for a while now, in theory, the conditions have been there for a pickup in M&A. I think what's always been missing is the period of stability. And I think the answer to your question, to some extent, is that there have been very strong equity markets over the last 6 months, and there has been a period of stability in the eurozone, which has enabled boardroom confidence to come back slightly.
So you talk about stability. We've all been watching the news lately. What do things like Turkey do to affect M&A in the region?
It's an interesting question. I think one of the features of the European landscape for M&A at the moment is that there's a new normal. Investors are getting used to the continuing issues and troubles in the eurozone. I think the fears that people had a couple of years ago, or even more recently, about a eurozone collapse have started to ease. Last year, Mario Draghi, at this time, roughly in May, said that he would support the eurozone, do whatever it takes to keep it together. That brought a lot of confidence back. So when there are hiccups like Turkey or like Cyprus, which we saw a few months ago, they don't have the same cataclysmic impact that they did a year or two ago.
So you brought up the eurozone collapse. Half of the respondents in your survey said that a eurozone collapse would actually help M&A in the region. Do you think it's possible that the eurozone will actually collapse, and why would that help M&A?
I think no one has a crystal ball in terms of whether it'll collapse. I think it's true to say that people think it's much less likely now, partly because the European Central Bank has made the comments they've made about holding it together at all costs. I think fears of a total collapse have therefore receded. There are still possible issues around countries like Greece or even the UK exiting the eurozone, but even that hasn't totally destabilised things. I think if there are more problems in the eurozone, you're quite right. One of the interesting answers to the survey was that it might make European M&A more attractive to some of the respondents, which seems at first blush quite surprising. I think what that really means is people are interested in looking at the opportunities that can arise from difficulties and chaos. And as Warren Buffett once said, be greedy at a time when others are fearful.
So in your survey, you had 42 of the respondents say that they see growth in European M&A in the coming years. But that leaves a lot of people that still think that the risks outweigh the benefits. Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
That's right. I mean, there is certainly a reasonable proportion that are still concerned about the risks. The uncertainty is always a sort of enemy of M&A activity. When you look at the risks, they are things like the political risk, the eurozone collapse, as you've talked about. There are concerns about low growth. There are issues which trouble investors around, for example, labour laws. But it has to be balanced against other M&A opportunities that exist for those same investors. And on one level, Europe has a lot of enduring attractions. It has a very stable legal framework. It has an established infrastructure. Politically, it's broadly stable. There are strong labour force skills, high expertise, research and development skills, intellectual property, very many attributes which are enduring. So if you look below the gloom of the current crisis, you can see attractions in Europe. And then on top of that, of course, there is the scale of the European market, which is one of the largest markets in the world. And if you're going to be a major player on the global stage, you have to be in Europe.
So how does a law firm like Clifford Chance prepare for an increase in M&A like this? Do you have lawyers waiting on the sidelines, or do you staff up when the deals come in?
No, we're always ready for the deals to come in, and I think it's a new environment for law firms now. I think if a law firm or an M&A lawyer only advises on legal issues these days, that's not really enough. In today's markets, our clients are really looking to understand the political issues, the cultural issues, the areas they may encounter integrating their newly acquired businesses. They're wanting to understand the political angles, the antitrust issues, the regulatory concerns. There are huge preparatory steps that our clients are wanting to talk to us about before they actually embark on doing these transactions. And that's where our insights and perspectives really come to the fore.
That's Guy Norman, partner and acting global head of mergers and acquisitions for Clifford Chance. As always, if you would like more information on the topics we discussed today, you can find us at BloombergLaw.com and on the Bloomberg Terminal. I'm Sarah Kopit. Thanks for watching.